In this video, I'll be installing SPELAB's intake manifold for 2019 through 2024 Dodge Ram 2500 and 3500 6.7 liter Cummins pickups. In the box is everything you need to get the job done, including gaskets, hardware, the new fuel line, and every component necessary for this intake. Let's get started by removing the factory intake, and this intake already has the SPELAB EGR delete on it as well. I started by removing the oil dipstick bracket, got that out of the way, and then moved on to the bolts that are clamping down the intake onto the cylinder head. Next, I worked on the intercooler piping that comes from the intercooler to the intake manifold. Once that intercooler boot is off the intake manifold, I then went back to the rest of the manifold bolts and got the factory manifold out of the way. There is a mass airflow sensor at the back of the manifold. I unplugged that. We will reuse that sensor, and I also removed the gasket from the manifold. Next, we can move on to the EGR delete from SPELAB. I am removing this from the factory intake manifold and going to reuse it on the SPELAB intake manifold. Next, I am removing my SPELAB throttle valve delete, and we'll be reusing that on the SPELAB intake manifold as well. Now we can move on to the fun part, where we install everything onto the new SPELAB intake manifold. With the mass airflow sensor installed, we can move on to the hardware that will clamp the new intake onto the cylinder head. That hardware is included in the SPELAB kit, and what I found easiest is to pre-install the hardware into the manifold, especially the bolt that goes on the inside of the manifold. Put that gasket, the new gasket that's supplied by SPELAB, put that gasket onto the hardware. It is a perfect fit so that the hardware will thread through. And I'm going to leave that hardware there as I try to shimmy the new intake onto the cylinder head. But before we can get the intake in, we do have to remove the number 1 fuel line going to cylinder 1 and replace it with a line that is supplied by SPELAB. These fuel lines are very easy to remove with a 19mm box wrench. Just unscrew the 2 connection points, one at the cylinder head and one at the fuel rail, and replace it with the included SPELAB fuel line. With the SPELAB fuel line in place, we can move on to shimming that new intake manifold into place. I'm really focusing on getting that hardware where it needs to be while keeping that gasket in the correct spot. I am also using the Allen key tool that is provided by SPELAB to hold down the bolt inside the intake and make sure that I don't lose that bolt while I shimmy the intake into its final resting place. I'm also starting some of the threads on some of the other bolts to keep it in place, and then I'm making sure that I have good engagement with the bolt that is inside the intake, making sure that it's not going anywhere and that it's not going to fall into the cylinder head, and that it also has good engagement with its threads. Once I know I have good engagement on a few of those bolts, I'm going to move on to installing the rest of the bolts and making sure that everything is loose but fitting well before I start cranking down and start tightening everything. After tightening all the perimeter bolts and retightening the bolt inside the intake manifold, now is a good time to plug the manifold with either the supplied plug or a SPELAB heating element that can be a replacement for the grid heater. With that plug installed, I move on to the oil dipstick bracket that is supplied by SPELAB. With the mass airflow sensor connected, I move back to the intercooler piping to make sure that clamp is tight and positioned in the right spot. Once that's done, once everything is tight, this installation is finished. I want to thank you very much for watching. Please check out SPELAB Auto Parts for anything that you might have seen in this video and other great high performance products and great everyday replacement products that can really help with the longevity of your Cummins diesel.